She stood alone in the middle of the Kansas heat, barefoot on the cracked earth, bleeding from both knees and shaking as if the ground itself rejected her weight. Lydia's heart did not cry. She had cried earlier, until her voice broke, until her throat burned, until the dust on her cheeks hid whatever tears remained. Now she simply stood there, stripped down to stubborn will. Her thin cotton shirt, ripped and uneven, clung to her like the last thing keeping her from falling apart. Above her, the sun pressed down with a cruelty so heavy that even the horseflies circled slower, as if pitying her. She didn't wipe the dirt from her face. She didn't raise her arms to shield herself. Her body had accepted pain as the only thing she had left. Not long before, the people of Abilene had shouted her name like a curse. They called her a liar, a thief, a disgrace. She tried to defend herself, but her words drowned under fists, boots, and the roaring voices of men who wanted to shame her until she broke. They dragged her beyond the town line, shoving her into an open field like a problem they did not want to look at. Then they walked away without turning around. As if abandoning a broken tool. The prairie watched her in silence as she tried to gather the pieces of herself left scattered in the dirt. But she stayed standing. Because falling meant she had finally accepted defeat, and she wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Her voice cracked when she whispered a plea, not for help, not for rescue, not for mercy. Just for strength to stay alive long enough to get away from the men who wanted to destroy her. Then she heard it, hooves striking the ground behind her. Slow. Steady. Deliberate. Riders. She blinked through the heat haze. One man rode out front, the others barely visible behind a curtain of dust. She didn't know if they would help her, or finish what someone else had started. But she knew this, if she collapsed now, she'd never rise again. Jonas Hale was riding at the front of his herd when he saw her sway like a candle in the wind. Before he could get closer, the 3 ranch hands behind him noticed too. And the first thing they did wasn't kindness. It was fear. They reached for their rifles. Lydia's heart dropped. Again, guns pointing at her. Again, men deciding her fate with a trigger. She tasted dust and fear on her tongue. Maybe the prairie had finally chosen who would end her story. "Hold up, boss," one ranch hand said. "Someone's sneaking around out here. Could be trouble." Jonas spun his horse around so sharply the dirt kicked up in a cloud. "Drop those guns," he said, voice a low command. The men hesitated. Now. Their rifles lowered instantly. Jonas looked at them the way a man looks when he's done taking foolishness from anyone. "That's a girl. Not a thief. Use your eyes." He walked his horse forward until he was only steps away from Lydia. She didn't speak. Her throat felt scorched. Her chest tight. Jonas dismounted slowly, palms open, the way a man approaches something wounded, but still proud enough to bite. Lydia instinctively stepped back, fear in her eyes sharp as glass. Then he removed his old denim coat and draped it around her shoulders. She flinched when it touched her skin, but then melted, just a little. It was the first touch in a day that didn't come with pain. The coat hung heavy on her frame, weighing her down in a way that made her feel almost steady. "One more minute out here and this sun will burn the life out of you," he said. "My ranch is close. You're comin' with me. No arguments." Behind him, the ranch hands exchanged uncertain looks, but none dared speak. Lydia searched his face, looking for hunger, cruelty, calculation, anything she had learned to fear in men. But Jonas's eyes held something else. Something quiet. Something tired. A man who'd seen suffering like hers before and hated that he recognized it. He helped her onto his horse, and the herd shifted in the background as if watching her be carried away from death's doorstep. Lydia didn't know it yet, but this would be the first time Jonas saved her that night. The ride back to the ranch should have been quiet, but the silence felt charged, full of unspoken worry. Lydia clung to the saddle horn, her hands trembling whenever the horse stepped rough. Jonas walked beside her, one hand on the reins, the other resting near his hip as though danger could jump out of the dark any second. By the time they reached the wooden gate of the Hale Ranch, night was spreading across the sky in deep blue layers. Lanterns glowed on the porch. The cattle pushed restlessly against the corral fence. It should have felt safe. Almost did. Then hooves thundered behind them. Fast. Hard. Lydia turned and froze. 4 riders. Dust trailing behind them like a threat. Jonas stopped. His shoulders squared. His jaw set. His whole posture changed into something sharp and immovable. The riders reached the gate. The lead man leaned forward, and Lydia recognized him instantly. Abilene. One of the men who dragged her out. "We're looking for a girl," he said. "Says she stole. Ran out on a debt. We'll be talking her back now." Lydia's breath caught. She braced for Jonas to step aside. To choose peace over her. To let them take her because she wasn't worth fighting for. Instead, Jonas stepped in front of her. "No," he said. "You won't." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried the weight of a man done being afraid of bullies. "This is my land. She's under my protection. Until a judge says otherwise, nobody touches her." The riders shifted uncomfortably. They expected a gunfight or fear, not a man who fought by simply refusing to move. The lead rider jerked his reins, muttered something under his breath, and turned around. The others followed. Lydia watched them disappear into the dark. Her hands trembled, but for the first time all day, it wasn't from fear. It was disbelief. Someone, finally, stood up for her. Inside the ranch house, the air smelled of wood and fresh bread. Jonas handed her a cup of water. She drank slowly, aware of his quiet gaze, watching not with suspicion, but understanding. "You don't owe me a story," he said. "But if someone hurt you, I need to know what I'm protecting you from." She looked down at her scraped hands. "They said things. Lies. And when I couldn't defend myself, they made me leave." Jonas didn't press. He just nodded like a man who'd seen cruelty too often to be surprised anymore. "You're safe here tonight. In the morning, we'll figure out what comes next." But later, lying in the guest bed, every shadow felt like danger returning. Every creak sounded like men from Abilene coming to take her back. "If I leave now, he won't get in trouble because of me," she whispered. She slipped out into the night, only to find Jonas already waiting on the porch, pipe ember glowing faintly. "Figured you might try to run," he said softly. "So I waited." And in that moment, he saved her a third time, not from enemies, but from the part of herself that believed she wasn't worth staying for. Morning came warm and gentle. Jonas brought her coffee, and for a long while they sat in a quiet that didn't hurt. "If you want to leave," Jonas said, "I'll take you to the station myself. But if you stay, we'll build something steadier than the things that hurt you." The words settled deep in her chest. Hope, small, trembling, but real. She looked at him, voice soft but steady. "What if I choose to stay? What if I want to fight for something better, with you?" Jonas's expression softened. "Then we start with breakfast," he said. And for the first time in a long time, Lydia felt a smile rise, slow and honest.